Hello and welcome to the AI with Arun show. What if India could turn its digital public infrastructure into the world's most powerful AI launchpad? Can a government use AI at population scale without turning citizens into data products? So these are some of the questions and much more that will answer the man himself, Mr. Abhishek Singh, who is the CEO of India AI Mission, is the additional secretary of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and a senior IAS officer. He is the man who is steering India's national AI strategy and related programs. So, sir, a very warm welcome to the show.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. So let's get started. So, sir, let's start with the vision for India AI. So we have had Digital India as well, and now we have India AI Mission. So, what is the vision of India AI Mission, and what is the single most important transformation in citizen-state interaction that you want to see in the next, let's say, 5 to 6 years?
So, like we visualize artificial intelligence as a kinetic enabler which will transform the way we deliver services using the digital public infrastructure. India, as you know, is a diverse country, multiple languages, and people prefer to access services in their own language and more so by using the voice mode. What we believe is that with the power of natural language processing, with the power of artificial intelligence, with the power of generative AI that has come in lately, we have the potential of enabling voice as a medium for offering services. So whether it's a farmer trying to get agricultural advisories or somebody trying to get information about healthcare or somebody wanting to get information about government schemes, about scholarships, about pensions, or even using AI as an AI tutor for educational purposes, AI has a huge potential for empowering people in using voice in their mother tongue to access services. And this, I visualize it as AI will be a layer over DPI, and it will exponentially expand the reach of public services, e-services that we have built in, India stack that we have built in. And I figuratively and literally I visualize it as DPI raised to the power of AI. Just like we visualize x to the power square or x cube, similarly DPI raised to the power of AI is something that will ensure that Indians, like the remaining Indians who are not connected to the digital economy, they are also able to access online services, become part of the digital economy, and benefit from the same.
Wonderful. So that's a very grand vision that you have. So if you had to clearly define a clear North Star metric for India's AI efforts, like beyond GDP growth, right? What would that be and how would you measure it?
So that would like mean that using AI, if I'm able to bring in another 500 million people into the digital economy, because currently we have 900 million people who are using smartphones, who are using internet to access public services. But the remaining 500 million people, if I'm able to empower them so that they are able to access online services by using a feature phone, a low cost feature phone, and using their voice as a medium for giving an input and getting output as a voice, if that I'm able to build using NLP, using AI, using Gen AI, that's something that we are aspiring for, and we are very hopeful that in the next 12 to 18 months we'll be able to achieve.
Wow, that's really an ambitious target that you have taken. Yeah. So in terms of misalignment, right? There's always risks of misalignment. There are technological possibilities and there are institutional readiness. So where do you see the biggest risk of misalignment between these two?
See, the biggest requirement that will happen, because if we are talking of inferencing at scale, if we are talking of, like, of course, we are building Indian foundation models, we are building products, we are building services for various public services, like for agricultural services, health services, educational services. If we have to do skilling, if we have to do inferencing at scale, so for example, if 200 million people or 300 million people start using their services, then the amount of compute power that will be required for powering that will be a huge requirement. It will require investments, it will require government investment, it will require private sector investment, it will require building data centers at scale, it will require ensuring energy availability for powering those data centers. So these are some of the things that we need to work on in order to help realize the vision of allowing every Indian to access service by using AI services. And that's something which we are working on currently.
Yeah, you're right, sir. Because particularly around cooling, around electricity, around data center, that's what AI data centers would need. That's where India needs to do far more than what we have now. So, in terms of you spoke about building sovereign capabilities, right? You spoke about building Indian models, Indian clouds, Indian chips. So, how do you think about the trade-offs building some of these Indian sovereign capabilities and integrating them with the global AI ecosystem, because the global AI systems, like Google, Microsoft, they're also investing heavily in India. So how do you think about the trade-offs between those two?
See, the global big tech companies will definitely invest in India, will definitely build their products, offer their services in India, because India will forever remain their largest market. How do they realize the return on investment that they're making? Like we hear of trillions of dollars being invested by big companies like OpenAI and Microsoft and Google, but in order to recover their investments, they will need to offer their services somewhere. And India being the world's largest population country, it becomes a natural choice of offering their services. Having said that, what we also believe is that we need to build indigenous capability across the overall AI stack. And when we say that, means at every layer of the AI stack, whether it's at the energy level, whether it's the infrastructure data center level, or the chip level, or the compute level, or the models, or the applications, use cases. So currently, what we are doing is that we are very good at building use cases and applications. That's the easy thing to do. And we have lots of Indian startups, Indian companies, Indian researchers who are building applications using the existing foundation models which are there. We aspire to build our own foundation model because we do believe that we have the capability to do that. And ultimately, this is a sovereign technology that every country who has the capability must invest in it. So we are very near. In fact, the 12 projects that we are funding in India AI Mission, a couple of them will be announcing it before we host the Impact Summit in February about their foundation models. And our foundation models will be different from what has been launched by other big tech companies. It will be tailored to our needs. It will be tailored to our requirements. It will offer services in Indian languages. And as I mentioned, our prime focus will be voice-enabled services. So that is something that will build our capability. The next comes the compute layer. So on the compute layer, currently we are dependent on the NVIDIAs of the world, and their chips are currently powering our AI ambitions. But we do believe that the ability that we have, especially in designing chips and designing high-end supercomputing chips, we will be able to design our own chips and get it taped out. So that's a capability that we aspire for, and we hope that in a few years we'll be able to be there. But till we be there, till we are able to actually design and build our own chips, have to be dependent on whatever is available globally. And then the next layer comes in data centers. We are one of the world's fastest growing data center regions, because the time taken to build a data center in India is much lesser time and cost. Like we are almost 50% economical when it comes to building a data center as compared to the West. And then energy, we have invested a lot in renewable energy, and we have enough sufficient energy available to power that. So I believe that on energy and data centers and foundation models and applications, we are quite ahead, and it will take a few years for us to be able to design our own chips, and then we'll be able to truly claim that we have a presence, we have a control, we have a capability at every layer of a sovereign AI stack.
Understood. So if I understand you right, so India has already has capabilities in many parts of the AI stack. There are others where we are missing, and we are building on top of that. And you feel that there is a space for both the global companies investing in India as well as
Yeah.
Indian companies building the AI stack. Wonderful, wonderful. So, sir, another question that I have related to it. So many government systems, they are still running on legacy architectures. So what is your realistic path to infusing AI in those systems without causing, for example, disruptions, security regressions, or any technical debt?
Government departments over the last few years, especially with India stack coming in, with the digital public infrastructure coming in, there's a lot of digitization that has happened. So what we are currently working on, especially, is to break the silos that some of the government departments have become and integrate various services through APIs and bring a layer of AI on top of it. In a way, we are investing into building agentic AI in every public system. So whether it's a rural development, or whether it's a healthcare or education, integrating these systems, ensuring that information and data is shared across in different verticals, ensuring that we look at service delivery from the perspective of a citizen who sees government as one organic whole and not divided into various departments and fields that we do is because of administrative convenience. For a citizen, he doesn't care whether it's a social welfare or whether it's a minorities or a rural development or an education, healthcare. For citizens, one interface is one government. So we are trying to design things from the perspective of the citizen, integrate various services being delivered by various departments into a connected system by building APIs for enabling information exchange, working on a principle of ask only once. If a citizen has shared his information with a one government department and he gives his consent for it being shared with other government departments, the other department should not ask the citizen to prove the same thing over and over again. So that reduces the hardship of citizens, companies, organizations. So that's a principle that we are working on. And then over and above that, our whole principle is to indigenize services, offer services in all Indian languages, enable voice as a medium for enabling success, enabling access to services. So the projects like Bhashini is enabling that. And under India AI Mission, we are building tools. We are building an orchestration layer wherein all government departments will be able to leverage the foundation models that we are building and build services on top of it. So that's the plan that we have for building connected, integrated services in using voice and all in and being available in all Indian languages.
Wonderful. Connected, integrated services with a citizen first mindset. And AI, of course, is the underlying layer. Beautiful, sir. I mean, you articulated it so well. So let's talk about governance, ethics, and regulations. So globally, if you see, there's a debate that's happening all over the world, right? There are some countries who are talking about innovation first mindset. There are other countries which are talking about a regulation first mindset. So where does India sit on that spectrum, and how intentional is your position?
See, like our core principle is prioritizing innovation over restraint. What we do believe is that the power of these technologies to integrate and to bring in to enable access to public services, which will result in economic growth and social good, far outweighs the risks which are there. Having said that, we do realize that there can be misuse, there can be abuse of this technology, as can happen in by any other technology, whether it's nuclear, whether it's biotech. So across the evolution of technology in the last several years, what we have seen that most technologies have positive side and the negative side. Given that AI is a general purpose technology, the risks with AI become far greater, and we need to kind of have a strategy to address that. So the lens that we use in assessing the harm that AI can cause is to look at from the perspective of the user. If any usage of this technology results in any user harm at an individual level or at a society level, that is something that we end up regulating. For example, if AI is used to create deep fakes, if AI is used to create pornographic images, if AI is used for child sexual abuse, if AI is used to create risks to national security, if AI is used to create law and order challenges, that is where it will be regulated, that is where it will be restricted. But when we do that, there also the principle is not to regulate the technology per se, but to regulate the use case. So if there is a usage of AI for creating anything which is illegal, which amounts to a violation of any of the existing laws, that is what something will be restricted. That is why we came up with regulations which require social media companies and intermediaries, which are primarily used to disseminate AI generated images or videos at scale. We have intermediary guidelines which puts a responsibility on them to remove any AI generated content or otherwise which can result into social harm, or which can result into any violation of a law within a specified time period. We also came up with guidelines which require all AI generated content, whether it's images or videos, to be labeled, to be watermarked that they are AI generated, so that the end user is aware what he's consuming, what he's accessing, and doesn't fall prey to any criminals or any antisocial elements, to avoid any risk. So that's how we are regulating AI. But primarily, we allow for innovation, we allow for building products which can result in benefits to various sections of the society.
Yeah, so wonderful, sir. I just want to spend a minute talking to the investors, community who watch this channel, and the startup founders. That India, as you heard from Mr. Abhishek Singh, is primarily an innovation first, and of course the regulations in place and guardrails in place. As long as you comply with the national security and the security of the citizens, but primarily it's an innovation-driven approach that the government of India is taking. So wonderful, sis. Thank you for clarifying that. So one of the other things, and given that India is such a diverse country, both in terms of language, religion, and so on, so bias and exclusion are often discussed at a very conceptual level. So give our viewers a concrete example of how India should detect, measure, and correct bias in an AI system, particularly the ones that are used for governance.
See, we always in under our AI mission, we have a safe and trusted pillar, and we are building tools for bias mitigation. Because what happens is that whenever you are training models and building models with which AI applications are built, the efficacy of these models is as good as the quality of data that is used to train the model. In case the data that is being used to train the model is not representative, is not inclusive, is doesn't have the sufficient sample size that is required for it to become bias free, bias will be obvious. And what we realize is that most of the large language models which have been trained have primarily been trained, whether it's Llama or whether it's OpenAI or Gemini or Grok or Claude from Anthropic, all of them have primarily been trained on Western data sets. They've been trained on data sets which are primarily in English language. One key example that you can think of is that suppose you look at Wikipedia pages, which is one of the sources of training these models. The number of Wikipedia pages in English runs into few millions. If you look at a language like Hindi, the number of Wikipedia pages is like around 300,000 or so. But if I come down to smaller languages, and even languages like Konkani or Malayalam or Gujarati or Bodo or Manipuri, the number of Wikipedia pages is in few thousands or maybe lesser. So clearly, if a model has been trained on whatever is available today, it will not be representative. It will have bias against a few languages. So bias will be inherent. So how do you remove this bias? We need to ensure that the more digital data is created in all these languages, and that is what we are trying to projects like Bhashini, Bhashadan, and ensuring that Indian models take care of these gaps which are obvious and which are known and address them. In addition, what we are also doing is, like for example, the draft guideline that we have come for copyright law and for ensuring that models are bias free. Therein, we have proposed an amendment to the copyright law which will allow open access to all data and information, whether it is copyrighted or whether it's not copyrighted. So that because if you don't give access to copyrighted data for training a model, then again a part of the information is missed. So we allow blanket exemption and ensuring that models can be trained on all information and data. And on the other hand, in order to ensure that those who have copyright are protected, we have come out with a mechanism of revenue sharing, of ensuring that those who have copyright are adequately compensated for the IP that they have, for the intellectual property that they have invested in, built in, and their concerns are also taken care of. So a few approaches that we have for removing bias is: number one, ensuring that complete data is made available; number two, having tools to detect such bias; and number three, having provisions for testing models and ensuring that they comply to the requirements of eliminating bias of any form.
Wow, that's a very complete and a very innovative approach of looking both from the data owners or the stewards of the data, because you're talking about revenue share, as well as making sure that the models that are being trained using Indian data are complete. Wonderful. So let's talk about the capacity and the ecosystem and the talent part. So India's digital success has partly been due to the strong engineering talent that is there. But oftentimes, India has been criticized for having weak product and the design capabilities. How is the India AI mission addressing non-technical capacities? For example, on policy design, domain expertise, change management. How are you addressing that?
See, like our primary strength has been our talent over several years, and talent in the sense that every indicator kind of points to that. If you look at the Stanford AI Index, it rates India as the number one in AI skill penetration. If you look at the GitHub AI repository, the number of projects contributed on the GitHub AI repository, AI applications, Indians are right at the top, contributing almost 23% of the projects on the GitHub repository. Having said that, what happens is that number one, most of the talent that we have leaves India and goes to the West, and either the top universities, whether it's MIT, whether it's Stanford, or they join the top companies across the world. So whether it's OpenAI or whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's Meta. They all have like lots of people of Indian origin working in the engineering teams. So these people leave because if they wanted to build products within India, somehow the initial capital that is required, initial investment that is required, initial patient capital that is required, the seed money that is required, somehow it's the ecosystem for providing that is better in the West, in the Bay Area, compared to what is in India. So that leads to exodus of our top Indian minds to these companies, and then they go and start building products for these companies. In fact, some of the people of Indian origin are leading these companies as well. And what happens is that in return, the Indian companies, right from the Y2K boom and all, somehow were excelled in providing services. So they became like a services dominant company. So over a period of time, that became the staple revenue source for most Indian companies. However, lately, most Indian companies have realized that the value that comes for building products. So now we do have companies like Zoho, Infosys, TCS, who are investing into building products, ensuring that they enhance their AI capabilities, they enhance their software development capabilities, building products, and move up the supply chain. So while traditionally that has been true for Indian talent to leave India and contribute to the major tech product companies, but lately the trend is shifting. But I do believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, you will see a lot of software product companies coming from India.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of the service-based companies, right? I mean, some of them that you mentioned, Infosys, TCS, Zoho, Tech Mahindra, they are doing phenomenal job in the AI space. So, in terms of the tech hubs, so Bangalore, Hyderabad, NCR, I mean, these are the known places, right, where all the big companies are present. But what's your strategy for enabling smaller towns and state capitals to participate meaningfully in the India AI ecosystem?
So we are supporting the state governments in several ways. Number one, we have tried to address the key challenges that are there in building AI products and AI solutions, that is in availability of access to compute. So we have enabled access to GPUs, access to compute at a very low cost, so that startups and researchers from across the country can access that. Number two, we have built a datasets platform called AI Kosh, which has like almost 6,000 datasets currently from both public sector and private sector, which again gives an opportunity to Indian companies across the country to access that. Then we have a Center for Excellence scheme, under which we are building Center for Excellence in every state in the country. Almost 58 COEs are being planned, and these COEs are kind of incubation centers for startups and for researchers who are building AI products and solutions. So that kind of allows that ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in tier 2, tier cities, to grow and build solutions. In addition, we have several schemes under which we give fellowships to students at all levels, at undergraduate level, at postgraduate level, at master's level, so that they are able to use the money that is made available and the subsidized compute that is offered to build AI products and solutions, to try out, to experiment, to explore what is possible. So these are several measures that we are doing, and along with working with the state governments in building applications that can be deployed at scale, that can be tested in the field, that can be improved by access to larger volume of data sets, so that we'll have at least a few products coming in from India, which we can truly say that they have created a huge impact at national level and potentially at the global level.
Yeah, that's wonderful, sir. You're right, because I see the developments in Lucknow. The UP is the state that I come from, and I see the developments, particularly in Lucknow, that are really at par with some of the other states. So that's a good one. So you spoke about the fellowship. So just continuing with that. So how should academic institutions in India rethink curriculum and research priorities in light of all the stuff that you're talking about, right? Generative AI, foundational model, open source ecosystems.
See, number one, we need to realize that AI is something that is not limited to only engineering or STEM or science education. In fact, when we launched the fellowships last year, initially we had made it open only for engineering students and postgraduate students doing MTech and stuff like that. Within 2 months, I got a request from medical doctors in AIMS who said that we are also working on AI project. And when I examined their proposal, I felt that why not? They also, well, AI is as applicable in healthcare and medicine as is applicable in other fields. Then similar things I got in from law, commerce, liberal arts, economics. So now we have opened the fellowships across disciplines. So one thing that we need to understand is that AI is here to stay. It's a horizontal technology. It cuts across disciplines. So now we are working with UGC and AICTE to ensure that every graduate who is completing a 3 year or a 4 year graduation program has the basics of data science and the basis of data analytics, the basis of artificial intelligence as part of the curriculum. So it's being ingrained. So even if a student studying philosophy or psychology, he will have some AI related courses that he has to complete. So in the curriculum, it is being embedded with part of the UGC and AICTE guidelines. At the school level also, we have built in AI as a subject at the class 10th level, the class 12th level, and now we are working on to introducing as a subject that students start reading, studying from right grade 3 and grade 4. Just like they study about the solar system, they study about the plants and animals and photosynthesis. Similarly, AI is being introduced as a chapter at the lower classes so that we lay the foundations right from the beginning, which ultimately will help them explore the subject and the topic and the discipline as they grow up.
So that's such a wonderful thing. I'll tell you a small side story, particularly for the school. So one of my relatives, they speak Hindi, and they requested us to create a course in AI for them in Hindi. And so we actually did that very recently. It's intended for kids 8 to 12 years old, but you're right. I mean, that is the age when which we really need to start working on. Awesome. So let's talk about some of the implementation, particularly the challenges and the learning that you have had. So we are famous for the scale, right? India is a country, big population, huge diversity, and all of that, right? But there's also a challenge of last mile adoption. So from your past rollouts, like Digital India platforms, so some of the projects that you're doing under India AI Mission, what have been your key learnings that you're applying to the India AI Mission projects?
See, ultimately, we have to move from pilots and proof of concept to actual deployment at scale. So, for example, if we have built up an AI application for diagnosing, say, tuberculosis, then just proving it in the lab or proving it with 1,000 or 10,000 data sets is not sufficient. We'll need to deploy it once it's found to work at a limited scale. We'll need to deploy it at population scale. We'll need to deploy it at every primary health center, every community health center, so that those health facilities who have X-ray machines, but they don't have qualified radiologists, they can use it. If we have built an AI advisory services for farmers, we'll need to ensure that millions of farmers are using it. If we have built up an AI tutor, then we have to ensure that millions of students are using it, accessing it, and testing it with regard to how it works. So the real challenge that we have is in moving from proof of concept and pilots to scaling at population scale, to trying to reach out to more people and ensure that the real value is created rather than just being hyped about this technology and using it for mundane things.
Yeah, value over hype. Wonderful. So with that, we're going to start on the rapid fire round. This is the last segment of our show. So here's my first question to you. One AI use case in government that you think is overhyped?
Translation.
Okay. On the flip side, one use case in government that is underappreciated or underestimated?
Ability to bring in more efficient services.
Yeah, right. Yeah, particularly given the scale that you're operating at. My third question to you is, if you had to bet on one Indian institution, it could be any ministry or any state or public sector utility, to become a global AI benchmark, which one would it be?
I would say IIT Bombay.
IIT Bombay. Okay. Yeah. They are doing a lot of innovative stuff in the AI space. Yes. The fourth one, the most important habit or mindset shift a public servant needs in the age of AI.
To believe that it can help in improving your work, because very often public servants think that they know the best and nothing else can change. But using AI as an aid can really help. Just like I use my glasses to be able to read better, similarly, AI can help me in being able to do my job more effectively and more efficiently.
Wonderful answer. That's a very important question, because a lot of government officers, they are the ones who are driving change. So that's a very important aspect for them to be aware of. And then the last one that I have for you is, if you had to complete the sentence that even if India gets AI right, in 2035, the world will see India as what?
India is a developed country.
Wonderful. So Viksit Bharat in 2035.
Bharat, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much, sir. That was the last one that we had.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time on the channel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
have
you,
a
Arun.
great-